welcome to Xena Warrior Podcast. My name is Vera, and I'm joined, as always, by my two scintillating co-hosts, Katie.
Ooh, hello.
And Livy.
Hello.
Yay! You got your sneakers on or your handbag ready?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, welcome.
Does Hermes make sneakers?
No, but Hermes runs fast.
Ooh,
so he wears
I forgot that this
sneaks.
is a double joke.
It's Hermes Mailbag.
That catchy title.
Yeah. Duh. What is this, 3, 4? I forget now.
This is number 3.
Yay!
Hermes 3.
Hermes 3. The best one.
Not so far.
Not so far. We got a lot of questions to answer, so let's get to it.
Woo, woo, woo. Thank you guys for submitting.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I guess I'll begin, because I said so. So, Mikey on Twitter says, can you please discuss Xena and Gabrielle's age?
Is this because it was just her birthday recently?
I guess so, yeah.
So what birthday was it?
Could anybody count the candles on her cake?
Everybody tried, but it seems like, I don't know, is this the fault of SD? You can't actually see them all?
Isn't she, well, didn't we assume she was quite small when
we did, yeah.
Because she looks quite small.
Well,
and behaves quite small.
Wasn't it like she was like 18
she's
when it
about
first
to
started?
get married.
She's about to get married.
I think we placed her
times.
at 18 so as not to be problematic. Even though it's ancient times.
She's really 14.
She could be 16. I don't know. I feel like that's what we discussed earlier
18 makes sense to me because, like, now we assume, like, a year elapses every season, just about. So by this point, she's...
Or more.
That's true.
We don't know.
In some seasons, clearly a lot more than a year passes. But it makes sense to me that Gabrielle is kind of dealing with this spiritual quest in her early 20s. Like, that feels right.
Of course, yeah.
If she's
absolutely.
22 being like, what is my way? I'm like, join the club, girl.
Yeah, she just turned 22,
yeah.
according to that math logic.
So what about Xena?
Right, so she was like 10 years older, so
Yeah.
she's like 31 too.
That,
32.
That also seems right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, we did it.
We did it!
She was like 26 or 7 when they met, and 10 years ago, meaning like Amphipolis happened when she was 17. That seems okay.
I think that was right. Right,
Yeah.
16, 17.
Yeah.
Right?
I dig it. That
Okay, so
that
then
just
she's
fits.
30.
If we're off by a year or 2, that's fine, but I can't imagine that we're off by a lot.
Okay, I like it.
Wait, does that mean there's a 10-year age difference between them?
Yes.
Yeah.
You think that's right? I
Yes.
guess so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's weird because I'm like, you know, that's a lot, but at the same time, it's not a lot.
It's
I
fun.
don't know. It's right in the middle there, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like there's definitely a difference in like experience and life experience.
I don't think it is a problem
No.
for the universe.
For the
in which
universe
they
that
live.
there's 10 years between
And
them.
also just generally.
And also it means like 10 years ago. I don't know. The power of the number 10 for this relation.
Okay, next.
Danielle, via email, asks us, hasn't anybody noticed how big Renee O'Connor's hands and feet are for her body size? They almost match Lucy's.
Well, you know what they say, guys.
I haven't.
What do they say?
Should I have?
I have noticed that she has really large earlobes.
Oh,
Interesting.
Yeah.
cute.
But not her hands or feet
I'm like
so
really
much.
gonna like now we're gonna go look at it.
Yeah,
and,
we're
like,
just going to
not
stare at our
unsee.
hands and feet.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow.
We've just
I
confirmed
guess
this.
it's very apparent.
Well, here. Well, no. Well, we can later. I'll show you all my images that I've pulled up.
Right.
Well, you know, she's a short woman, but she's very powerful.
I feel weird.
You know, she's powerfully built. Like, she's not a little waif.
Right.
She's not petite. If she punches you, you will fall down.
Because she have her big old hands.
That's right. Like boxing gloves.
Her sailor hands.
Oh.
Hands like a sailor.
Hands like a sailor. Maybe that's what it meant. We finally
Okay,
figured it
there you
out.
go.
I'm sure it's something we've subconsciously noticed, if not directly addressed before.
We definitely have not addressed it before. So thank you for that.
The second part of Danielle's question is Najara, so much no.
That's more of a comment, I'd say.
Well, my response to that, Danielle, is so much yes.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, I love Najara, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I have a soft spot.
But I get why someone would be upset with her because she causes nothing but trouble.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay, so Candace asks, are you guys reading the Xena comic? Okay. This is a bunch of info about the Xena comics that have been out for the last year. She says, a new series just started, but there was also a series that came out last year, and there was also a Xena Evil Dead series too, and we should check it out. Definitely want to do that. We haven't read them.
But I love the art. Yeah, we've seen the art.
Well, the new one, right?
Yeah.
That's the most recent one, and then, I think the one from last year is slightly less interesting art-wise. I don't know a lot about comics art.
Hate when that happens. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm a really bad comics person.
I have seen, the frames of them, smooching. Yeah. And then I did see the cover of the Evil Dead crossover, and I have to read this. I have to. So we will check those out. Questions, though. Before the scene when Gabrielle kills all the Roman soldiers, how many people had she actually killed? Was it only the one with Meridian's death? I know there was a running count of how many people Xena had killed previously.
She had killed 3 people previously.
She killed Meridian.
Hope. And Crassus.
That was 3 hopes because of the 3 times.
Has she killed Hope
I
3
feel like
times?
so.
That's a lot.
Maternal instincts.
She counts as 1.
Maternal instincts,
Yeah.
sacrifice, and then the sort of setup in Family Affair.
Well, I would say that the Destroyer kills her in Family Affair.
But it's also a setup, mildly.
They didn't know.
They didn't know. So 2.5 times. You're right. That shouldn't count so much.
With Crassus, that is an indirect killing too, but at the same time, it's very intentional. She says
she makes that choice.
Yeah, by taking that ring, she
Kills
is saying
him.
you are going to be killed,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that. Whereas with Porcupine Monster,
Yeah, take that back. It's not. Yeah, it's not at all.
They obviously were trying to make something destructive happen, but they didn't know that was gonna
exactly.
happen.
No, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, after Ides of March, she has killed 10 people altogether.
Whoa. So that's 7 in Ides of March,
7
in
days.
addition to her 3. Wow,
Yeah.
that's double digits, Gabs.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Okay, so there is a second question in here, and we got this question a few times.
I think about 10 times, actually.
So if we don't actually read your specific version of this question, let us just answer it all in one go here, sort of. Are you guys planning to do any other podcasts after you finish this series?
We had people make suggestions, which was very helpful. Somebody asked about Spartacus. Somebody asked about Jack of all trades and
Fringe.
Cleopatra 2525,
Yeah.
Briscoe County Jr., Ash.
These are all
absolutely fabulous.
Oh, really?
Fab.
Yeah.
I didn't see that suggestion.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Bomb Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Hercules so that they don't have to watch it.
I'm with you, person.
I appreciate all of these questions so much because I love that you guys just want
It's
to
a
keep
huge compliment
listening
that
to
you
us
guys-
talk about stuff.
And that you're already nervous about what happens when this is over. We have 2 whole seasons left to talk about. In addition, we have all of our minisodes that we are going to be recording. I'm sure we'll come up with new ideas for minisodes.
That's a good point because we
Yeah.
do actually, I think, a couple of the minisodes that we'll probably end up doing for sure are Spartacus and Ash versus Evil Dead, though of course it will just be one episode, not a whole podcast's worth. But if there is a topic that you would like us to do, you could check out Patreon.
Absolutely.
But I think the answer to this question is we don't know. Hey.
I mean, for me, I came to this not being like, I want to do a podcast. I saw Xena and I was like, oh my God, I just need to talk about Xena. We have to do a podcast. I would need to feel that strongly about a show to do it. So, it can't just be any old show.
Yeah.
We're thinking.
TBD.
Oh, I'm next. Okay.
Yeah.
So Victoria on Twitter says, what subscription services would Xena and or Gab sign up for? That is an incredible question. Okay. Thoughts?
Are we talking about streaming or just any kind of subscription? Anything?
It could
Whatever
be
you
streaming.
know.
Not
Whatever you
she has
feel like.
Netflix.
Excuse me,
anything?
I think Joxer has Netflix.
Oh, sure.
Ooh.
I mean, I think Gabs should get a Blue Apron.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
totally Blue Apron.
Like
for
for them.
Gabs.
Yeah.
Gotta try those recipes out.
And Xena, I'm still a little I'm kind of going back and forth on what she should get. And I have no fucking idea, to be perfectly honest. She's very difficult to shop for.
I feel like Xena just doesn't do things regularly. She's all about the improvisation. So she would, any subscription you get her, she'd start complaining about it. Because she just, like, doesn't use it enough.
Dude.
I think Gabs would get What's in Your Box, a female sex box.
What?
Ooh.
That not only delivers pleasure techniques, but also promotes safe sex and sexual health.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Only Gabs, Xena wouldn't
Can
partake.
Xena get like a hot sauce of the month club or something?
Hot sauce of the month.
Yes,
That's
she
great.
would love that.
Okay, great.
I have a suggestion for Xena. I think Xena could benefit from toiletpapervalet.com. We ship toilet paper to your door every month for a low monthly fee.
Oh my God. I
Perfect.
also would benefit from that. Thank
You'll
you.
never go without toilet paper again.
Yes, Xena. That should end with Xena.
Fucking amazing.
Their tagline is everything but the wipe.
Wow.
Check them out at Toilet Paper Valet.
You're not paying
That's
us.
what
Not an
Liv
ad.
works for, guys.
Wow.
Sponsor of the podcast.
Wow, that is perfect. I'm looking at it now. Take the plunge.
Okay, so part 2 of Victoria's question is, Gabrielle would be a travel blogger, and she would force Xena to take faceless pictures of her around the cities they visit. Xena would basically be Jessie Graff. Agree or disagree? What would their Instagrams look like?
Okay, so this is like a modern sort of AU scenario.
Yeah.
And how do they use social media? How do they use Instagrams?
Sure. I mean, I think that definitely this is applicable to Gabs. I do think that Xena would, if she was, forced to use Instagram, she would, like, take pictures of her feet or something like that. Yeah.
Fish. I just think various fish she catches.
Yes,
Fish.
absolutely.
Great call today.
Yeah. And then, like, selfies with the fish.
Oh my God,
Today.
fish selfies.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally. But it's really cool that you mentioned Jessie Graff, because I remember listening to a podcast. The search term Xena, like, brought it up. So it was an interview with her, and she was saying how much she loved Xena and how it inspired her to be active, and she became who she is.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's true of many women.
Yeah.
So, yay.
Woo.
What do you think would be, like, I feel like Xena would be, like, on Reddit. And, like, Gabs would have a Tumblr. I feel like that would be the way they use social media.
I think Xena would have a Twitter, but be really bad at it. Like, she would make a tweet that would just say chicken, and then that's it. And you're like, what? What does that mean, Xena?
And Xena pretends to, like, look at all of Gabrielle's Instagrams.
Yes.
But actually, like, never goes over
Or,
there.
like, she has to, once in a while, do the, mass likes. Because, while she's on the toilet, of course.
Of course. Our next question is from Jeffrey on Twitter. Which character, outside of Xena and Gabs, would you like to have their own series? Era, locale, etc. That's a tricky one. Such an open field. Vera, I'm sure you want just a Callisto show since you gave us a million
you know what I
pitches.
want. Yeah, check out the Hermes Mailbag 2 for what I would do with this question.
I would love to have Cyrene, obviously, like doing a Cheers style show.
Oh my God.
So Cyrene's Tavern.
Oh my God.
You could have people.
Everybody knows your name.
Yeah. Or doesn't. I feel like Cyrene doesn't know anyone's name.
I thought you were going to say Cyrene in Sex and the City.
I mean, that would be good too. I think you could combine those ideas. I'm sure every episode Cyrene would have a new love interest she's flirting with at the tavern.
I love it.
And you could have all your faves kind of cycling through, staying at the tavern and see how Cyrene takes to them or not.
Oh my God, I want this. Wait, Vera, did you answer?
I mean, my answer was
You're just
bad.
throwing back to the old mailbag?
Lazy bum.
What happened to your one where you wanted the Amazons, but like Lifeblood, but like reverse?
That's you. You wanted that.
No, but you also wanted it where it was like...
Clearly neither of you really wants it if you're forcing it on the other.
It was like Ephany or something, but like Encino Man into the future.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yes.
Ephany Encino Man into the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
I feel like she'd get it immediately, though. You wouldn't have any of the Encino Man jokes. She'd be like, okay, fine, I can deal with this. It's not my favorite, but...
I'd watch an autologous show, to be honest, but I just love Bruce Campbell.
I know
it's Jack of all trades.
I know, but I would, but like autologous, just generally.
Autologous of all trades.
Maybe we could have like an Aphrodite show. Could that be fun? Yeah. I do think it would be interesting to have a show structured around one of the gods. Like, what would that be like? What's like God's eye view of this universe? I don't know.
But it has to be in the Xeniverse?
Yeah, for sure. It would have to be in the Xeniverse. Like, most of it would be, like, set on Olympus, though. You could have, like, all the gods fighting in Mount Olympus.
I think it would be really great.
Like Game of Thrones. They're, like, fighting for the...
So, like, Twilight of the Gods, but the whole show about that.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds epic when you put it like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or, like, immediately after, you know, the survivors.
Kathy D on Facebook asks if you plan to cover Xena after the end of the last season. Hate to see it end. I know. Like, I mean, I suppose we could keep talking about Xena. If there was more of it, sure. I don't know. At the Xena retreat, are you planning on interviewing any of the cast or writers of the show? We are doing a live show, like, ourselves. But as of right now, there's no plans to do that.
Kathy C. on Facebook asks, have any of you ever heard of a comic called Strangers in Paradise? It's amazing, and the artist did a whole trade in the Xeniverse. They actually forgot to ask Renpix if it was okay, but when they showed it to Rob and Co., he was delighted and said that he loved it. I urge y'all to look it up.
Cool.
That's an awesome story.
We have not seen it, but thank you.
I love that Rob, confronted with something that takes liberties with his copyright is like, I love this. That shows you like what Rob's attitude is to the fan base. It makes me happy.
I wonder if that is still a possibility nowadays, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Universal NBC is a little intense.
I mean, you don't tell us about it.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Mitch on Facebook writes, if Katie could take more time to sit down and think on it, how would she describe the transcendent love between Xena and Gabrielle at the end of the Ides of March pod episode?
Oh my god.
What's its relationship or distinction from other visual media? Katie?
Give me a second.
I feel like Mitch is just like, can Katie please just talk about how much in love Xena and Gabs are for like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
It would make me really happy. I think a lot of people would be really happy if you did that.
So I want to do my favorite thing, which is reference articles. And then not post them so that people can find them. Maybe I made them up. You don't know.
Oh my god, that's deep. That is a deep cut. Katie makes up all these articles.
Okay. Basically, I mean, I think that they're... To just start off on like one mode of thought, I do think that there is sometimes like a genre element to this, which is that like a lot of OTPs that I have, this is a basic answer first, a lot of the OTPs that I have in media like are from these very high stakes genre shows that are crazy, and they get put into these scenarios that are like force them to be like everything for each other, like end of the world scenarios and time travel scenarios and all this stuff that doesn't really exist in our reality, so to speak. And to me, that creates this very intense, dramatic bond between people. Like, I know I reference like the X-Files a lot. Another one that I love right now is Outlander, which is like a time travel nonsense.
Back in the day, lived John and Aaron on Farscape.
Farscape, very high stakes scenarios that like, and so I don't know if that has something to do with just personally stuff that I'm attracted to in media. I don't know. So that's something. I don't know that it's necessarily part of this answer, but it's in there a little bit. But I think that, like, for me, and a lot of times I do feel like I end up getting either a little ranty or, like, weirdly inarticulate about the concept.
I think that's what this question is encouraging you to do.
So, like, maybe I could have sat down and thought about it as the question asks me to do first. But
where's the fun in that?
So I'm going to just be, like, inarticulate and ranty. And especially in terms of its, like, distinction from other media. I touched on this, I think, with our Deja Vu All Over Again episode, which partly is based on Mitch, who was asking the questions, wonderful article about this show in general. But I do find that they are just distinguished in a way where you can't box them in to a socially understandable category of what love is supposed to be, and that's what makes them transcendent. And you don't need to shove them into a box to understand them. The article that I mentioned earlier, before I got sidetracked, is one called Xena's Quest for Transcendent Love.
Yay!
It appeared in the Gay and Lesbian Review in 2016. Here's a quote. Despite the subtext, there is no explicit affirmation of either Xena or Gabrielle's sexual orientation. In fact, they both had a relationship with men, blah, 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 but they always circled back to their bond with each other. Renee O'Connor, the actress who plays Gabrielle, admitted in an interview, quote, I think Gabrielle is probably searching for her soulmate and that she found it in Xena, actually. Having been through the entire series, she's probably been searching for the love of her life, which is Xena. The relationship becomes transgressive because it claims love cannot be defined in binary terms such as homo and heterosexual. The relationship transcends the restrictive categories of human language, elevating Gabrielle and Xena's love out of the human and into the divine realm. A little bit later, the article says, moving to Xena and Gabrielle, it is arguable that their relationship is not defined by sex, but by the absence of any sexual category. In this sense, Xena represents a universal love that is distinct from sexual love. That's a big part of it for me, and I realize that that is not the case for a lot of people watching the show, and that's totally fine as well. I just think, personally for me, there is something within the way that the show positions their relationship and the way that they are connected to each other that is not dependent on whether or not they are fucking, to just put it mildly, which for me is really important. And I don't know, I just think that, like, once you're out of the language that we have that is trying to categorize how people should be in a relationship, like, then it becomes transcendent. Like, and that's the best word for me, because it's just like this article said, like, it elevates them into this divine realm. Whatever that means for you is also fine. But, like, yeah, I don't know. Again, it's very personal, which is why it's hard to articulate.
I think you've done a pretty good job.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Happy with this.
I don't know. I feel like, yeah, it's just beautiful. And sometimes that's like the best word that you have is one that, like, really elevates it. Oh, it's my turn to read the next question? Oh, we'll never figure out the order of questions. Okay, so Rita on Facebook writes, do you think Sins of the Past Gabrielle would be dissuaded from following Xena if instead of just telling her not to follow her, Xena told her just why she should not follow her? I.e., told her what her bloody maniac's quote-unquote sins were, especially those we have learned from Season 4. Throughout this season, we see Gabrielle having second thoughts about Xena. Whenever there is a triangulation going on, Gabrielle tends to devalue Xena in favor of a third character that seems to be a better, non-violent version, an idealized version of what Xena is. I know that you think that when Xena told Gabrielle not to follow her, she was actually asking her to do so. Can you please share thoughts on this? Also, hey, Livy, when it's your turn to comment, can you please do it as if you were Satrina? I love Vera's Borias impersonation, but your Satrina impersonation is just hilarious. She's such a crazy odd duck. Thank you all.
I do not appreciate being second here.
This is interesting.
I've been waiting all my life to be asked to answer a question.
Is that Satrina?
I don't know. It's turning into a lot. Is there?
No, that was Satrina.
No, that was definitely
not
not
Satrina.
This is interesting because I don't necessarily 100% agree in Sins of the Past that when Xena asked Gabrielle not to follow her, she was actually, like, testing the waters and asking her to do it. I personally think that she was like, don't follow me. However, to answer the question, I don't know. I think she really wants out of that town. And it's one thing to, like, know someone and, like, start seeing and or finding out about stuff than if Xena just was like, hi, I'm in your house. Oh, I killed a bunch of Amazons once. And I did this once. Like, I don't know if that would sway Gabrielle so much. Like, she's in a spot in her life that she really wants to desperately escape. And she has seen the same thing that made her leave with Xena has happened, I assume. So I think that she would still be like, well, that's not what I just saw.
Well, nobody's perfect.
I don't know.
I do think it's interesting because Gabrielle was going through this thing in those first few episodes in the first season where she really was idealizing Xena. Like, whenever anybody would bring up to her, like, she did these bad things, Gabrielle would just be like, whatever, I didn't see that happen, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like if Xena were to do that herself, Gabrielle would just be like, nod and smile.
Sure.
You know, I just don't think...
That's on the past.
She's so naive that I think she doesn't really believe in the reality of those things. She's just like, oh, this woman, she wants to take me away from this place. And she says she's bad, but, like, I saw her do something really amazing. And also her eyes are just so blue.
Satrina saw those things. You're right. Oh, this next one is too long for me to read.
I'll do it for you.
Go, Satrina, go. People talk about Gabrielle giving up.
Oh my god.
No, go ahead.
BakaXV sends us this great comment via email. People talk about Gabrielle giving up her way for Xena in Ides of March. Gabrielle didn't give up her way. She found it again. People like Najara, Aiden, and Eli are the ones who took her from her path. Season 4's soul-searching Gabrielle is someone in a crisis of confidence after a rift full of decisions and actions she never previously thought herself capable of making. After all of the pain, violence, and death she feels she's caused, Najara, Aiden, and Eli instead offer the potential for Gabrielle to heal, and in her troubled and vulnerable state, it's something she grabs onto. As a person whose first choice is never violence, a person who believes in breaking the cycle, etc., the ideals of the way of love would naturally appeal to her. But she doesn't live in an ideal world. Wah. No. Gabrielle is a protector and defender. She has been from the very start. In parentheses, take me, let the others go, from sins of the past. Even in her time as a follower of the way of love, she struggles to stay passive in the midst of a battle. She certainly never makes any real move to leave Xena, a woman whose life is defined by fighting.
By fighting.
By fighting! Not Satrina coming out again. The moment of Xena's fall in Ides of March is the shock to Gabrielle's system that cuts through all the doubt and self-distrust and brings back into sharp focus exactly what is important to her and what she's willing to do to defend it. Perhaps, had all the other unfortunate events in the rift after Meridian's death not happened, Gabrielle would have found herself at this point before now. But regardless, the way of friendship is the path that Gabrielle was working towards from the start.
That was great.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's important to realize that, like, you know, she knew this. Like, before everything, she knew this. It really is a full circle arc, but it's not like she's back to square one at all. She needed to question everything in order to really commit to that way.
Yeah. Okay, I can do the next one. Rhonda on Facebook asks, when you first saw season 4, did you think the vision would actually happen?
Ooh.
I remember when it first aired, I just knew there was no way Xena would let this happen. Right up until the second it did. So great, this show.
Wow.
What
That's
do you
a
guys
good
think?
question.
You, I feel like, are the only one who can answer this. Because
Yeah.
when I saw this, I knew it was going to happen because you
You
spoiled
told
us.
us.
You
It
spoiled
was
us.
my attempts to recruit you. Like,
How dare you
And they failed.
spoil us for the things that were going to happen
So
in
yes,
Xena?
yes, we did think it would actually happen. But that's just a good question because I think if I was just watching it play out, I would be under the impression that they would stop it. And that's what
Absolutely.
I think that the show wants you to think because you see it so much, and
like,
you're
they're
like,
never
oh,
gonna go through
how are
with
they going to
this.
get out of this one? Like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I would have thought that it
I mean, that
would
I
be
certainly
thwarted.
did, yeah.
As a kid?
Yes, as a kid. No, when I saw it the first time, I mean, besides being completely like obsessed with it because of this long vision, I think what really stuck is the fact that it did come true, and that's crazy. It is crazy the
Right.
stuff this show does. This is definitely one of the first things
This
that I
is
remember
challenging. It's true.
being like, no other show, because when you think about other shows doing this kind of thing, it's always subverted, or it's always like turns out to be stupid. It never ends with your heroes being actually like crucified or killed,
And it
in
feeling
a thing.
like a happy ending in its
Sure,
way.
yeah, but like that's nuts. Like no other show does this.
Yeah, what's so satisfying about Ides of March is that it happens exactly the way you saw, but the context makes that feeling so different. You know, the fact that you realize, oh, like Caesar's going down with them, and oh, their angel's going off to heaven. Like, that's what's satisfying about it, that reversal, but it doesn't actually change what you saw. It made me think of, like, Greek tragedy. You know, so often you have, like, prophecies that the characters hear about, like in Oedipus, where it's like, oh shit, this thing's gonna happen, I gotta work to stop this. And by working to stop it, you make it happen.
Right.
That doesn't exactly happen in
Yeah.
Xena, but at the same time, it feels very in line with that kind of tragic inevitability, that they're told this thing will happen, and it can't be averted. Like, destiny is destiny. What can change is how you feel about it going in.
Right. It's good stuff.
You're up, Katie.
Oh, okay. So, Brilliant Fantastic Geronimo from Tumblr asks, way back, you shared some crazy awesome pitches for an imaginary Callisto spin-off. Have you got more pitches for Xena episodes you'd have wanted to see?
Besides Cyrene's Tavern.
We have a similar question as well from Nora, that if you were all commissioned to write one of the one-off comedy eps, what would you pitch? I can't do comedy.
She says hilariously. Vera, you have a pitch, comedy or otherwise, for
Well, now
Xena
I'm
eps?
questioning what genre this would be, but this would be something that I would like to see, or this would be something I would pitch. I would pitch Xena and Gabrielle being tourists. Xena decides to take Gabrielle out, and they visit the town or whatever, and shenanigans start happening. And in this town, you sort of find a Gabrielle clone, or not clone, but a Gabrielle lookalike, running the shenanigans, and more shenanigans occur. So I guess it's a comedy.
That is a comedy.
I like it. I would love to have a Gabs clone.
Yeah.
This reminds me of one of my non-comedic pitches, which is that I've said this before in mailbags, but I would love if there'd been more Callisto in general.
Well, yeah.
I feel like the second they killed her the first time, it kind of limited what they could do with the character ever after. I would have loved if she had gotten a Gabrielle of her own. It doesn't have to be the doppelganger. It could just be a character who kind of fulfills that function, that Gabrielle fulfills for Xena. Like, I would love to see what would happen to Callisto if she had that person who really looks up to her.
Pretty sure that's in my Callisto spin-off.
I'm just ripping off your idea. You can sue me if you want to. But we often talk about Callisto as like that mirror for Xena. This is the one way in which she's different, and obviously it's a big reason why she is such a mess. But I would like to see it, and it doesn't have to like lead in the same direction as Gabrielle and Xena and their partnership, where Gabrielle helps Xena towards that road to redemption. I would love if it was like the exact opposite, where
God.
like that poor Gabrielle figure got super corrupted and like became even worse than Callisto. Like that.
Would Callisto then have to kill her?
Or she'd kill Callisto, or one or the other. I mean, it would be juicy.
This would be really juicy.
Yeah. Another idea I had, which I guess could be the comedy pitch, is I would have loved an episode where Xena and Gabs pretend to be a married couple.
Oh my
A
god.
la
That's
the X-Files, Arcadia?
You just want that fanfic trope.
Yeah, I love it. I would, then they have to like play these roles. Like they have to be sort of domestic, and you see Xena like, being all grouchy under the strain of having to do this, but they have to foil some plot. You know how it is.
So is this set in like modern times, or
No, they'd have to.
They don't live in the suburbs.
They could make house in a little Athenian suburb. That would be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, but you could have it would clearly be meant to be contemporary suburbs. You'd have like the little picket fences or the ancient equivalent, and their next door neighbors want to gossip with them.
I just had a thought. I would set I'm sorry, I was thinking about my thing. I was like, I know where she would take her out. They would go visit the island of Lesbos. And that's where the Gabrielle clone is.
Oh, I love it. That sounds so good. All right. I greenlight all these pitches.
Yay.
Greenlit.
Wait, what about my UK / this kind of goes along with the other question about like what other character as well. I want to watch my UK and/or / Scandinavian crime drama a la The Missing that has like Lilla and like other characters in the 25-year gap, like trying to find Gabrielle and Xena. Yeah, and it's like
depressing.
A dark Scandi drama.
Yes.
Starring Lilla, Joxer, and Meg.
Oh my god, I want it. Could we somehow get Najara, but like from her Cold Case show? Try to solve this.
Najara from Cold Case is the detective trying to solve this. Mm-hmm. Wow, and she's an actual cold case because she's frozen in a cave.
I told you I don't do comedy.
All right, there's more to these questions.
Yeah, you have
Katie.
a second question.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, Brilliant, Fantastic Geronimo continues. Number 2, how do you balance your work life and your fandom life? And how did you use to balance it with your student work? Well, I can answer for me with like, okay, the last part with like being fandom and a student. I'm just gonna say I'm like an old, like a semi old, where like I like barely had live-journal in college. So if fandom and had all the social media and stuff that it had now, I wouldn't have gotten anything done ever. And so I think that helped.
I discovered bidding when I was a student. So yeah, that was the challenge. Yeah.
But like work life and fandom life balance, like fandom life I would assume is like all of my fandom life is just this now.
Yeah. I mean, basically that's kind of true.
Yeah. So
yeah. No, it's kind of it's in a way sad. I feel like I've stepped away sort of from a lot of fandom just based on how things are, and just there's no time for it.
You have to prioritize. It's really hard.
And podcast, that's the fandom. And I mean, I'm very happy about it. I'm very happy to have entered this fandom.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
This is a good place to play.
I've never been able to like do more than 1 or 2 obsessions at a time anyway, so it kind of works for me. But if you're used to being in like multi-fandoms, then maybe it's a little harder. But I don't know, you just make it happen and or don't sleep.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One or the other.
It also helps for us. We have each other, and we have a wider network of friends who we have met through fandom.
Yeah.
And now we're just our friends. So our social life has kind of merged with our fanish life.
Yeah.
And that takes care of some of it.
I know.
Just hanging out with people can be a fanish activity for
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
Honestly, making breakfast like in the morning can be a fanish activity if 2 of us happen to be doing it. But it is hard. I mean, I definitely think, especially if you're fanish in a way that involves being creative, whether it's making a podcast or vidding or writing fic, like it is hard to find the time to do that and to like carve a place in your life where that gets to exist, and that's not like something you have to apologize for. That's something I definitely dealt with a lot as I got into fandom, which is that I felt like I was doing something that like wasn't as important as my other activities. And I think it's always really important to remind yourself that like fandom matters. It's meaningful. You don't have to like feel ashamed that you spend however many hours a day doing fanish stuff, because that is creative and it teaches you how to be a deeper thinker. and it creates friendships, and you're basically just living your life in a community that you've chosen for yourself, and like props to you, like do whatever you have to do to protect that time and that space.
Yeah, and if you're making any kind of like contributions, like you said, writing fic or, you know, making fan art or whatever, like that's not just something you do for funsies or whatever. That is your art. That's what at least I learned to justify all the time I spend bidding.
Absolutely.
Like, it is my art.
It has, you know, improved your skills enormously. Like, it is absolutely how you express yourself as an editor, which is also a job.
I mean, yeah, I had vids on my reel, so yeah, that's just legit.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because we're living in a time when fandom is beginning to bleed into your professional life and your personal life. Like, they're not like compartmentalized anymore.
Yeah.
So I think this is a great thing. I think it's great if you're able to take skills that you've picked up in fandom and apply them in your professional life, and actually like literally take things you've done in a fanish context and been like, hey, look what I did. Like, I recently put Xena Warrior podcast on my CV for something, and I was like, I did struggle with it for a second, which I hate to say, because I hope by this point it's like, yeah, I do this podcast. It's many hours of work a week.
Liv, don't deny it any longer. You are actually here doing this. But sometimes Alanis does it.
That's true. She is not on my CV. But like I in the end, having made the choice to put that on there and list that along with my accomplishments, like I was like, yeah, you know, that belongs. That's part of my life and a big part of my life, and,
it's all
and represent.
Life.
Yeah. So part of the fandom work-life balance is to acknowledge that fandom is part of your work and part of your life.
Part of your world.
Question number 3. I can't read the whole thing because there are lots of parts to it, so we're going to just boil it down to the main crux of the question and then hopefully answer it in the correct way. But basically, Brilliant Fantastic Geronimo has asked if we think that new concepts that were introduced in Season 4, such as the idea of soulmates, reincarnation, and karma, might have actually hurt the show in the long run, and if we disagree, why do we disagree? And this is sort of based on excerpts from a website that we cite a lot, Jackson Abraco's site, where there was a post / review of like Ides of March or post Season 4, saying that he thinks that the idea of soulmates took out a lot of conflict from Xena and Gabrielle's relationship in terms of the idea of them traveling together and if they should be traveling together, because, you know, adding in like the soulmate concept is basically like, oh, well, regardless, they belong together and should travel together, so there's no like narrative conflict or drama anymore by introducing this
because it's
stuff.
like, will they, won't they, and this says that
Soulmate
they will.
says they will.
Which, I mean, it's not, I don't know that it's new language, and they certainly have upped the scales. I mean, it's stuff that has kind of been there a little bit earlier.
No, I mean, you know, Prometheus, Gabrielle doing the speech about the soulmates.
Absolutely.
It's been floating around in this show's DNA for a long time.
But I don't really agree with that assessment at all. Like, I don't think that these ideas ruin the show. I think this is Season 4 and the end of Season 4 of a show. Shows don't often get a bajillion seasons. Maybe they did get more, like, back in the day, I suppose. But I just think that, like, 4 years in, we've been exploring a lot of these questions about what it means for them to travel together. And I don't think that adding these new concepts in hurt the show, because I think you just get new stuff to think about instead of the same.
I personally love the soulmates thing, because I don't think it means that they always have to stick together or whatnot. It just means that eventually they will find each other somehow in whatever life. you know?
I think it's wrong to think that it removes tension, because there's still plenty of tension. It's not like the characters are suddenly spiritually handcuffed together. Like, they still have free will.
Yeah.
Like, they can still make decisions that might lead to their separation.
Yeah.
There's even the worry that, you know, that this is bad for Gabrielle. Like, plenty of that her violence arc isn't over.
I agree with that as well, and I think that, like, one thing that's really easy to not do because you're just so caught up in the whole thing is to, like, really pause and be like, she just killed so many people, and you understand why, but I don't think that in the way that the scene plays out, it's still quite visibly horrifying for everyone involved. So when people, like, really overtly cheer it on, I do always want to take a minute and be like, I'm there cheering it on as well, but I also want to, like, stop and be like, remember what this means.
That's
you have to remember
what makes it such a powerful moment, is it needs to happen, and you're so moved by her doing that for Xena. But, you know, the flip side is that she is doing that, and it's hard for her, and she hates it, and she's upset. I mean, these are, you know, she's not cheering when she sees that bloody knife, and we wouldn't love her if she did. Yeah. It's the fact that she's willing to make that sacrifice for Xena that makes it so romantic, not the fact that she, like, kills a bunch of people.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't think, what do you guys think?
Well, I definitely loved something you said, Katie, when we were discussing this before we hit record on our podcast. Said, like,
I said the good stuff not on camera.
You said something like, you know, I get this idea that having the threat of, Gabrielle could leave Xena at any moment, like that leads to tension. You were like, no, the show is about Xena and Gabrielle and their adventures, so we know they're never going to actually leave. Like, it's tension in that, like, bad things could happen to them, they could fight, it could be a long arc in which they have a rift. Like, these things are all possible on the show. But, like, you know that, like, they're not going to, like, split up.
Unless somebody is like, I don't want to be on the show anymore. They're going to be together.
Yeah, so this just adds new things to think about. And then I also, this is, like, mild and, like, maybe a slight tangent, but I do think that, like, if you're, like, objecting to the sort of romantic concept of the idea of soulmates, and, like, don't take that seriously, that there's something slightly anti-romance about it that I don't like, because to me that, like, circles back around to people taking romance less seriously as a genre. But, like, obviously that's not, like, really what the show is doing. It just, like, kind of underpins some of these arguments for me that, like, that's not as good as...
But soulmates can be non-romantic.
Yeah,
You know, they're just, like, people who are important to you and make a mark on you in life.
Yeah, part of the longer question that we're editing out was the idea that having a soulmate is kind of hard to relate to as a viewer, that's just sort of an abstract concept, and that it's less applicable to everybody's lives. And, you know, I think that's a reasonable problem to have with it. You know, obviously not everybody is going to feel this way about romance, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it in the show.
Right, yeah.
There's a lot of this show that can't possibly be, like, you're relating to it. They run around in ancient Greece.
Yeah. So why is this suddenly a problem? Yeah.
And I do think that the idea of soulmates is a metaphor for something that people do feel in their lives when they find someone they really love. What it really just means is, like, it's trying to come up with a word to describe that chemical reaction to meeting someone who you're just like, oh my God, like, this person, I was meant for them and they were meant for me. Like, that's the only way to explain how well we get along and how I never want to lose sight of them ever.
That's a Jewel song.
Like it doesn't mean you actually have to physically be like, oh, like, their soul and my soul knew each other in a former life. Like, it's just a way of describing, like, that feeling and that level of commitment. And I feel like nobody in this conversation is actually quibbling with the fact that that's how Xena and Gabrielle feel about each other, that they feel like they need to be together no matter what. What you've kind of alluded to, Katie, and saying, like, oh, this is gonna, like, lead to more, like, new exploration of ideas. I think the fact that they've now decided to commit to each other in such a serious way, and that's really what happens at the end of season 4, is after all the doubt that they've both entertained about, oh, is being together the right thing, they both decide, yes, it is. Yeah. And that's wonderful, but it also means that they now have new questions to wrestle with.
Yep.
Because once you've made a commitment to a person, what does it mean about your other commitments? What does it mean about, like, you know, your redemption arc? What does it mean in a situation when the greater good is a factor? Like, we've often alluded to that balance, the balance between love for a person versus love for humanity at large, and, like, how do you balance that? It's hard. I think that's a question now in the show that in a way, like, can only be asked after they've made this choice to be soulmates.
Yeah.
And I do think it is a choice, like, and that's the thing that gets erased when people talk about it.
Because
like
it's such a loaded, like concept. Destiny and soulmates makes it seem like they don't have a decision in the matter, but, like, I don't think that makes
That's
that,
not what
like,
we've seen on the show.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can write a story in which that's the case, and I think that's part of what gives this concept a bad name, is that people see that and go, like, oh, that's, like, describing a really dependent relationship. And it doesn't have to. I think that's the thing. That's just the way people have chosen to depict that concept, like a Wuthering Heights style emotional abuse situation. But that's just one interpretation, and I think Xena and Gabrielle are another, and they're not like that at all.
No.
Soulmates doesn't have to be creepy, you guys.
Okay, Caro asks, concerning the larger stories and character arcs, would you have been content with Xena ending after season 4?
Oh, that's a good one.
And do you think your understanding / perception of the show would have been different without season 5 and 6? That's a great question.
Wow.
I answered it a little bit in our Ides of March podcast. I hinted that it would have been satisfying, and I go with that. But, you know, I love so many things that come about in seasons 5 and 6. I think if the show were to end at 4, I'd feel like, oh, that, you know, cut down in its prime. There was more to be said.
Yeah.
That's my question. Sorry, my question, Katie, not to you specifically, but is this show getting canceled after season 4, or are they planning on ending it after season 4? Because if they were planning on ending it, that means that maybe stuff would be slightly different.
Yeah.
If they were just
I feel
canceled.
like this is like, it would be. Yeah, I think that in this scenario, let's posit that it was canceled.
Okay.
And that was what we were left with. It was not maybe what they had planned.
Right.
So, like, would this have been satisfying?
Yeah.
I have a few understandings of this question that are like, yes and no really is the answer, because the satisfying nature of it is because I think it narratively works very well, and this as a cap to the season, and the whole thing just works. The whole thing feels inevitable, and it does end, like, kind of nice in a way, although, like, because we know that there is a season 5, we kind of complained about some of the cheesy stuff aspects of it.
Oh man, are you talking about Deja Vu, which I forgot?
No.
The thing that ends? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No one is talking about Deja Vu.
I'm like,
literally no one. This question.
The show would end on Annie Banani song.
Oh no! You're right. No, we're not satisfied. We're not satisfied.
Hypothetically, with this question,
Cancel that episode too.
It's canceled after season 4, and the last episode is Ides of March.
Yes. Cancel Deja Vu.
We've canceled Deja Vu.
I would not
been
be
canceled.
satisfied with the show ending on Annie Banani song. I don't think anybody would like that.
And she skips off into the horizon.
No, it's just what we've always wanted. But, like, I think that, like, that narratively it's very satisfying.
Right.
Narratively, it emotionally makes sense. You're just like, everything's great. Like, you get left with, a neat story for season 4.
Right.
I think that it would be very unsatisfying in the sense that I do not think we are anywhere close to, well, not anywhere, but that's an exaggeration. I do not think that Gabrielle's story is over. And I feel like that for me, her, like, journey is not to get to this point.
That's true. There's
and I find
so
that
much she needs
that
to
would be
wrestle
deeply
with.
unsatisfying
Yeah.
for me. And then I also think that there would be the idea that it's really satisfying comes with, it's like a little bit of a loaded question, because I do just think that, like, if Ides of March was the end, there would be a lot of comments like, You just crucified Xena and Gabrielle and it's over?
What the fuck?
But they went to heaven.
I know. So it's like nice, but it's also like, I mean, that's the thing. Is it like, there's that element of it that's satisfying, and then there's the other element that's like, whoa, really? That's crazy. So like I don't know. I like it would be like I would maybe applaud it as kind of like a really radical thing to do with like both of your leads in this position, like, and just that's it, it's over. But it wouldn't have been the show's fault in this scenario. They were canceled.
That's
right. This really reminded me of how there was that prospect that Buffy would end after season 5, and we had the similar situation where
Buffy dies.
Am you answering that question? Because I would have been satisfied with that.
Well, I mean, it's the same. I think that's a similar question.
I think the gift would be very satisfying.
But both of those, well, I don't know about
saved
season.
the world a lot.
I don't know about season 7, but like there was so much story to tell afterwards that it's hard to, think about the show ending at the time.
Season 5 Buffy?
Posited. Yes. Season 5 Buffy, season 4 Xena.
Yeah. So, yeah, but the other part of the question is...
They're both strong endings, but they're endings that almost rule out a lot of the interesting kind of character exploration that does come after these points.
Which is the second part of this question.
Yeah.
Would your understanding or perception of the show be different without season 5 and 6? Yeah, I mean, yes.
I don't think the show is as coherent after season 4, but I think it does ask a lot of interesting questions about the characters post season 4. And like we've just been saying, the Soulmates question, once they are committed to each other, like that does open up a lot of ethical questions that the show does engage with. And like that doesn't happen until after Ides of March.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like I'm commandeering this question a little bit, but for me it all just kind of boils down to Gabrielle's journey, and we're not done with it.
She isn't a daddy yet.
She sacrificed her way for Xena, so that is very romantic, and if it had to end there, you would write your metas about it.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, from there, you could foresee her.
I would bend over backwards
ending.
to make it satisfying.
Yes, there you go.
You could
That's
foresee.
my raison d'etre anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it's true that this decision is what sets her on the path to where she ends up at the end of season 6. Like, it's a very direct line. It's not like there's ever another critical moment where she chooses whether or not to do this. Like, she's chosen it. We get to kind of see the results of that choice over the next few seasons.
Yeah. And some wrestling with other ideas, but like not in as intense a way.
It's a great question.
I'm going to read the next one too.
Go for it.
So
the comment.
It's a comment from Love William on Twitter. I wish Ares was used more in this season and would have been nice for a Hercules crossover. 2 exclamation points.
I do miss Ares a little bit. I
agree.
like when he's around.
I agree, but I
did not miss him at all.
Well,
you said that on Deja Vu. I was shocked by how angry you were to see him
I
back.
had forgotten that this was a thing I was forced to deal with for 3 years.
But to seriously discuss this, I think that the presence of the Olympian gods in this season would have felt like almost like incongruous with the narrative arc of the whole season, which is why I think they don't appear so much.
I think it's great because when the Olympian arc starts happening season 5, you already have all that stuff with Eli, and we talked about how the beginning of the end for them already starts happening with, Eli's rise, sort of, and the rise of his way and whatnot. Everything comes at its own pace, so we did not need them here.
I do think the show is always strongest when it's about human problems.
Not about Ares wanting to bang Xena.
I mean,
I like that. Don't take that away from me.
That has a human impact.
Yeah.
Him wanting to do that fucks up a lot of things for Xena. And, like, that I can get behind. But I do think whenever the show concerns itself a little too much with the supernatural, like, it's losing something. That isn't what its strength is. And, yeah, I think that's part of why I love Season 4 so much, is that it's pretty low on Olympian gods. I remember how shocked I felt in Takes One to Know One when Discord showed up. I was like, who are you?
Yeah,
and why is this happening?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, for sure, exactly.
So yeah, we're obviously not in favor of
But
a
I'm sure
Hercules
lots of-
crossover.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's sort of what that Discord vibe was
To
oh,
each
this show's
Yeah,
their
Hercules.
own.
yes, exactly. I'm sure a lot of people would have
Yeah,
wanted.
it's cool
this.
that that's what you're into, but yeah, we're pretty happy with the way it is.
Hercules. You're allowed. Everyone's allowed to love the show Hercules.
Eric on Facebook asks, do you feel Gabrielle's pacifist arc is detrimental to her becoming a warrior in the future? I feel as though Gabrielle is dealing with trauma from the past extreme violent occurrences, and swinging to pacifism would only be an appropriate next step within her character continuity. She has always pulled just shy of being 100% warrior, and we see this in even the weapon she has used being the staff over a sword. I feel she needed to experience this arc before finding exactly what works for her in the future as a warrior. What are your thoughts surrounding this arc in regards to her character arc?
Eric, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, Eric,
Yeah.
I love when someone helpfully answers their own difficult question.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's necessary. It's a necessary step for Gabrielle, is questioning it, is giving it up. Like, violence has never, like, been something she's comfortable with.
No.
So by cutting it out entirely, she realized how much she needed it.
That too, but then also, the idea of, like, never being comfortable with it is okay as well.
And I don't think she'll ever be. She won't.
No.
She won't ever be, like, dependent on it, I think.
And that's good.
That's very good.
And, I think we touched on a little bit, maybe, this is a nice summarization of this idea here. Like, we hit on it maybe a little bit in Ides, where, we talk about how this pacifism arc makes sense because it directly springs out of the rift and sacrifice and everything that happened to them that was so violent and just so awful. So you understand why she decided to try this way. And then the show does a great job of showing you why she rejects it.
I think when people complain about it, it's just so important that you think about, the context, like what came before and what comes after.
Yeah.
Like, this is a step she has to take. It's annoying and inconvenient in a lot of ways, but it's still an integral part of her character's journey. And
Absolutely.
I think if you were to tell her story without that, you'd be missing something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally.
That would be really interesting if Xena went on a weird, like, bender of nonviolence.
Oh my god. I mean, okay, pitching a Xena episode, I would totally like to see what that would look like and what would precipitate
well, you know what?
that.
I lied. They did that. It was her weird alternate universe.
Remember
That's
that
true.
thing.
They do that.
She couldn't do it.
I would like a second version, like just one that's like very
For realsies?
Yeah, not a alternate kind of universe that.
Yeah.
This is reminding me of another idea I had for a Xena pitch. I would love for them to do kind of that Western trope of the former gunslinger settling down in a town and becoming the sheriff. Like, I would have loved a long arc in which Xena, like, becomes, like, sheriff of Amphipolis with Gavs. And, like, what would push her off that path. Like, I know that we're going to start talking in season 5 about domesticity in Xena and how Xena can't bring herself to do that. I would like to see a version of it that she's able to do at least for a little while. I think that would be an interesting side of the character that we never get. And that's just such a classic Western. You could do like a High Noon situation where one of her former like warlord nemesis comes into town and like, what's Xena gonna do? Like, I think there's some cool story there.
They definitely were going to have that Western episode.
Yeah, not my favorite, to put it mildly.
All right, next.
Next, Troy, via email, leaves an excellent comment about season 4. The prison break in Ides encapsulates everything about where our Xena and Gabrielle are in their overlapping heroes' journeys. For Gabrielle, this is her gauntlet. Right after achieving oneness with her teacher Eli, she acts out of love, out of righteous anger, out of instinct. She rejects being a passive bystander and becomes warrior defender of her true love and acted as both sacrifice and salvation. her chrysalis, she is crossing into the field of adventurer in her own right.
Yay.
For Xena, she is on the threshold of going into the magical unknown. At the height of her power, she meets all the earthly challenges, defeats Pompey at arms, outwits Caesar with cunning and guile, rejects the temptations of Callisto, and shows her to be petty and faithless in comparison.
Excuse me.
And even has the courage to defeat Alti, rushing headlong to meet the prophecy instead of trying to avoid it. Xena is now ready to enter the abyss.
The episode called The Abyss? Katie's ready to enter that episode.
Oh my god. Okay. To enter the abyss, where she will meet death and rebirth, and most importantly, atonement, when she looks into the eyes of the repudiated and condemned Callisto.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Troy.
Yeah, amazing.
Good describing.
And I liked that. I mean, I didn't do it in the quotes, but I liked the gauntlet comparison,
Yes.
like for Gabrielle
Yes.
to the Hercules
Episode.
and
Yes.
Xena and the gauntlet. Yeah.
Yeah, she's been set on her way. Mm-hmm. Oh, so good. Xena has unchained her heart.
Oh, no.
Question. Okay. So my question for you three, though, is this. The trickster spirits in Season 4's Road of Trials were Dahak, Najara, and Tadaka. None of these is any longer a match for Xena, but for Gabrielle, she's entering the field of adventure they could well be. If each one of you had a shot at writing a Season 5 episode and were assigned one of these villains, how would you resurrect them so they were again a threat to a specific aspect of Gabrielle's development as a hero? And how would she confront that challenge? Would she defeat it? If so or not, what would be the outcome? Ooh.
This is an intriguing selection, Troy. The trickster spirits in Season 4's Road of Trials, Dahak, Najara, and Tadaka.
Yeah.
What about Aiden? Does he not count?
Nobody wants him again.
I do want Aiden again.
No.
Excuse me.
I
I
want
choose Aiden.
The bunny.
I choose Satrina, obviously. But she's not a Gabrielle antagonist.
I would obviously choose Najara because I love that bitch. I think she would come back as an amnesiac after her coma because that's what happens. Duh. Mm-hmm. And that's all I got.
Okay, well, that's the beginning.
Yeah.
I would also choose Najara. I don't exactly have this mapped out in my head, but I really, really want a reversal of the character dynamics that existed in Crusader and in The Convert. I want Xena to drink the Kool-Aid for a change, and I don't know exactly why. I feel like Najara's comes to her being like, the Jinn are telling me to do a thing because it's really important. And for whatever reason, Xena would be like, yes, that is actually really important. And for this time, because it's convenient to me and my own beliefs, I'm going to buy into your Jinn thing. And meanwhile, Gabrielle, who's been burned so many times with Najara, would be like, no, like, I'm skeptical. I'm going against you, Xena. Like,
I want this too.
You should not be trusting this woman. Excuse me. Remember all those times you told me not to trust this woman? And Xena would be like, yeah, it's fine.
That's great. So I would think she would come back with amnesia. and I would like to see Xena actually believe her or like want to help her this time. Like how she's very bad at trying to help, like, let's say Callisto. And then maybe she starts hearing the Jinn too or something like that.
Oh, fuck, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true that the Jinn are one of those things where I'm like, oh, I kind of want more information about them. I want to know more. Like, where do they come from? What are they? Like, you know, is it mental illness? Is it something supernatural? Is it some combination of the two? What's up with the Jinn? I gotta say, I would kind of love an episode where Xena ends up hearing them too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I would subscribe to this newsletter.
Here's some questions from Andy on Facebook. Andy has sent each one of us specific questions.
Whoa, Andy,
yeah.
I'm very impressed by this specificity.
Yes. Okay, so here we go. Livy, you mentioned in an episode, maybe the Buffy one, that as a kid you had a profound dislike for anything dramatic/tension-filled. Was there a specific thing that got you to enjoy these things, or was it a gradual process, simply growing up and being able to deal more with these feelings?
Just like developing some better taste.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a
Maturing.
part of it. Andy, that's a great question. I had to go back and figure out which podcast this was. It's Maternal Instincts. When we were talking about how much we love tragedy and
its importance for us as
We do at
viewers.
that.
We do. We seek out tragedy. We are into that shit. Yeah, so for those of you who didn't listen to that podcast, how dare you? Basically, the story I told there was just that as a little kid, I really couldn't deal with tragedy at all. I would get really angry. Like, I would, like, go off on it and try to, like, logic my way out of there. Like, I saw a play, a version of Romeo and Juliet that was set during the Iraq War, which is totally a tangent.
Oh my god!
It's so like seared into my mind that it was set during the Iraq War, and I like in the intermission just got really angry because I knew where it was going, and then it went there.
Is this the first Iraq War?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be. and then at the end, like, just, like, stalked out. Like, literally got out of my seat in a huff and, like, left.
Aww.
So after that, my parents started kind of, you know, putting trigger warnings on my media consumption. They would tell me when they were going to show me something that had a sad ending, and I mostly just avoided it. I would go.
So by the time that Romeo plus Juliet from Baz Luhrmann came around,
I did not see that.
What, Leo?
It came before Titanic, which, Andy, is the answer to your question. Was there a specific thing that helped me to enjoy tragedy? Well, indeed,
Wow.
there was. It's a movie called Titanic.
Oh,
You may have heard of it.
You've heard of it.
It's by JC.
JC, the one and only.
I saw Titanic. It didn't have a trigger warning, but
How many times did you see it in the theater?
I saw it 7 times in the theater.
11.
Yeah, you're blew me right out of the water.
I think I win, guys. I saw it once in the theater.
How
I'm not embarrassed.
are you even
either.
sitting here?
I'm not even embarrassed.
But I saw Avatar 12 times
No,
in the
you did
theater.
not.
What is the movie you've seen the most in the theater?
Moulin Rouge.
Not you.
Oh, sorry. I like
God, I don't
a
know.
tragedy.
You do. You do like
Moulin
a tragedy.
Rouge is sad.
I saw Moulin Rouge a few times.
I think I saw Carol the most.
And that, so like 3 times?
No, I think it was like 4. No, we saw Kill
Oh.
Bill 2 like 5 times.
Oh,
That was too
yeah.
many. Too many.
That
for
was a
me.
big one, yeah.
I think I saw Carol like 4 or 5 times. I can't remember.
So yeah, I saw Titanic because a friend of mine really wanted to see it. I don't remember being that stressed about going into it because I didn't know about the romance. You know, I knew it was like a disaster movie, which I somehow didn't. I don't know. I don't know what little me was thinking. But I saw that movie and I just loved it. I loved it so much. It was a formative experience in my life. It made me want to make movies. I wasn't interested in that before. So it's a big deal movie for me. And yeah, I am not ashamed of it. I think it's a really amazing movie. Does it have the best script in the world? No. But does that matter?
No.
No. So yeah, I saw it, and part of what was so incredible to me was the tragedy. Like I found it so powerful and beautiful, and I think that's the thing that hadn't quite connected in my head was that you don't have to be angry about tragedy. Like you should. That should be a part of your aesthetic experience. Like, but that's the thing. Like it's a way of marrying sort of the rage like with understanding, oh, like this can be beautiful in its way. This can be important. Like it's a way of dealing with issues that like maybe just make you mad, but you can see, oh, there's more than just the thing that makes me mad. Like
So Titanic did it.
Titanic did it.
Made you
Yeah.
appreciate a sad.
It made me appreciate a sad.
All right, so Andy's question to Katie is, Katie, it's been a joke that you cringe at the word cinematic when used to describe television. Although it was touched upon a little more seriously in an episode a few months ago, would you mind expounding on it a little and why Xena is something of an exception? Also, are there any other descriptors in the same vein you folks find as inappropriate?
Ooh, that's a good bit.
I'm trying to remember what I said a few months ago. But I think just for me, like I don't like the word cinematic being applied to television now specifically because I don't really feel like television is anymore in a place where it is somehow the lesser medium to film. It's different. It's a different medium, but the idea of when people called television cinematic, it was implying that it was stupider and that like anything that was cinematic on TV was somehow...
It's praise.
Yeah, so it's a compliment.
Like a movie.
Yeah, it's a compliment, but it's also like putting down...
It's like Titanic.
Yeah, but it's also putting down television. Like, so cinema is an exalted art, and television just like this mass entertainment, like mindless box thing that, you know, wasn't as artistic or what have you. And also, like, TV didn't have the same budgets that film has, or the same, like, equipment that film has, or the same, like, you know, it had a whole different style of making shows, especially early on. Now we're in a crazy place where that's not the distinguishing features have been wiped out.
TV's like the more serious place now. That's the medium where people who like storytelling go.
Yeah, so I don't think that you should use the word cinematic to describe TV, because it's TV and it's just as good.
It's televisual.
Televisual is a good one. Yeah, so it's just like, I don't like it. But if Xena, like, being an exception, I don't think that it is an exception, but I would accept someone calling it cinematic in 1998, because that's being very complimentary to the show being very beautiful and intelligent. But I just don't think that you need to make these distinctions. And, like, I don't know. I think that, like, TV has always been really amazing art form. And it's just, like, it's just different. Even when it wasn't as visually stunning as cinema could be, like, it was still, like, you know, an amazing place for writing and performances and characters and stuff. So there's no reason to put it down.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a backhand compliment. Yeah.
Preach, girl, preach.
It's a backhand compliment, and it's not necessary.
So what are other words that we hear?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other words. We touched on it a little bit in Plays the Thing, auteur.
What? I don't mind auteur.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think in recent months, like, you begin to think, oh, like, who coined this word? Who does it get used to describe? Who is it excluding? And yeah, it's a word for exalting white men. It doesn't have to be. Like, I think it would be great if we could expand it to include other kinds of filmmakers. But
Sofia Coppola.
That's some active work we're gonna have to do. Because I think if you called Sofia Coppola an auteur, a lot of people would like be like, "What are you doing?" But like,
what do you mean? She has written and directed like all her movies.
Yeah, she's a very like a style that is very signature. So I think she is an auteur. But yeah.
Well, I hate multi-camera. That's not a term, but I just hate it. That's it.
You don't like the word?
No, yeah, I hate the concept of
You like when
multi-cam.
TV is more cinematic.
Yes, I do.
Oh, I see. Great. Just after us deciding never to use that word anymore.
That's exactly what I like.
I mean, I'm sure we all have our kind of hang-ups in cinema and TV criticism. Like, they kind of come out as we talk. You'll probably eventually run into some of them, ideas that we like and dislike. But yeah, it's hard to come up with like actual words that we have a problem with.
Okay, so the last one is for me, so I think Borias should read it. Vera, you gave us some amazing Callisto-centric pitches in an earlier mailbag episode. What would you pitch for crabs and gabs? And then Andy goes, personally, I'm envisioning a 70s style cop show, or a parody of one anyway, where the partners are mismatched, the coffee's bad, and Xena is a crabby lieutenant with suspenders and a bad mustache.
A crabby lieutenant, you say?
Which makes me think of the SNL Kate McKinnon, A.D. Bryant parody such as this called Dyke and Fats, which is amazing. You should look it up if you haven't seen it. I definitely love your version of this, Andy, for sure. We can definitely work with this. I wasn't sure if you wanted, like, Crab Woman to be crabs or not.
This makes it sound like Xena is crabs.
Yeah, exactly. So I just decided to, not bother, and I would do a crossover where it's Married with Fish Sticks and SpongeBob. So it's Gabs and Mr. Krabs.
I'm dying. I'm dying. All right. Well, say no more.
And I will not say any more. So there. Next.
Kathy writes via email, my question is about the merits of Season 3 and Season 4. I've always been a believer the show peaked with Season 3 and the highs of the rift, the debts, bittersweet, One Against an Army, and Sacrifice 1 and 2, and that ending. For me, Season 4 began brilliantly with Sin Trade, and Ides of March was amazing. Loved your 3-hour analysis. Yeah! But in my opinion, the India arc and Gab's Way of Peace worked thematically, but the individual episodes were less successful as a whole. Both seasons have some throwaway comedies, something TV these days and shorter seasons are less prone to. While we had been there, done that in Season 3, we also had the dire King of Assassins, King Khan, and Vanishing Act. Low points for sure. While Season 4 punished us with In Sickness and in Hell and Key to the Kingdom.
Yeah.
That's the only two. We can only come up with two, but we would probably add Takes One to Know One to that.
And Deja Vu.
Oh, shit. So, on balance, if forced to take one season to a desert island, Season 3 or Season 4?
Who goes first?
Me. I'll take Season 4 any fucking day of
Me
the week.
too.
So will I. Wow. Yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about this, but it's just the most consistent.
Yeah.
It's got the most good episodes.
The most closest to perfect.
It's rough. It's rough to want to not take the rift with me. Or like, the ending of Season 3 is really fun. Or bittersweet or the debts.
Yeah, all amazing episodes. Maybe it has more highs than Season 4, but
high highs, yeah.
More lows.
You guys should think of it. You guys should think of it in the sense that you're on a desert island. It's very hot. You want to see those episodes with the snow. You just want to see all that snow.
Yeah,
to
go
remind
get
you.
thee to the northern Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't get rid of like my fave Porcupine Monster or Ides. Or fucking Centurions. I love those things.
And you get a little bit of the rift
first
in there.
one.
So it's best of both worlds in Season 4. Little glimpses back to the rift, but also a lot of other amazing shit.
If you ask me this on another day, though, I might say Season 3. But, right now, having just watched all that Season 4, that's what I'm definitely saying Season 4, but ask me tomorrow. I lied. Season 3.
Oh my god! What is this crazy turnaround?
No, I don't. I just remembered One Against an Army, and I don't know what to do with myself now.
Oh, you gotta take One Against an Army.
It was featured in the montage sequence in Deja Vu all over again.
So you don't need
So
it.
you don't need it.
Oh, what a good point.
So you get that one scene from One Against an Army. Maybe
I can remember it.
Yeah, it'll always be there with you.
I mean,
Okay,
but that's
I'm sorry,
a good
okay.
point. That's a
Carry
good
on.
point. That's a great episode. A lot of people, I think, would probably trade all of Season 4 for One Against an Army only.
Yeah.
Another question, writes Kathy, that we used to argue over back in the day, and also a bit of a Season 3 or 4 question. What do you think was Xena's most heinous crime? Kathy writes, for me, her brutal killing of Cyan's Amazons in Sin Trade for no apparent reason, in parentheses, Alti promised her what exactly? Outweighs the killing of Callisto's family by her army or the neglect of Gab in the Rift or pretty much anything else. If the Gab drag was real, never sure if it was or not because it's in America, maybe that is up there. Jumping ahead, the 40,000 souls killed in an accidental fire in Friend in Need is in no way her worst crime. What is your opinion?
Well, we know what the worst crime is.
What is it?
Fucking Borias on the horse!
No!
It's her using this girl as toilet paper.
Oh, right.
Exactly.
Yes, that is the worst.
I mean, this is a good question, so I don't want my answer to be, in any way implying that it's not a good question. I don't like to rank any of these things.
I feel the same way.
I don't want... or even, classifying, what's a crime, what's not a crime, what she should feel is a crime, what she shouldn't feel is a crime. Is killing one person on purpose, that's somehow okay versus, a whole bunch of people, you know what I mean? So I kind of, don't think I can rank maybe I'm being too serious. But yeah, I don't think that like you can put a ranking on that.
I don't think Xena ranks them. Which
Yeah,
is an important thing to
maybe
keep in
that's
mind.
what I mean. Obviously, you can rank like the heinousness of acts in the world and violence.
Right,
but,
that's
yeah,
how you sentence people to prison
Yes.
or to the death penalty for
Right.
things considered that heinous. So, you have to kind of make these distinctions. But I think for me, it's hard not to just see this through Xena's eyes.
I think that's how I'm feeling as well.
Yeah, and like for her, I think all these things are terrible. Like, I don't know if she's sitting there being like, oh, that Callisto thing, that's the worst. No, wait a minute, those northern Amazons, I mean, I kind of agree that just as a viewer, I was so horrified by her actions in Sin Trade. Like, we just had never seen that level of carelessness in her carnage or just killing people for no reason. Felt so inhuman.
And maybe that's where the question, that's where I get it, where it became like about her motivations in that sense. Where,
it wasn't a means to an end, at least not one that we understood.
Yeah, so that one. That one is worse.
but at the same time, it is, like, it's interesting to me that this actually was a big debate in fandom, because I look at it and go, like, why?
I'm not so much interested in debating that.
I mean, it's weird, because, like, I'm like, should we be thinking like a judge? Like, in which a numbers game, I think, would be a part of it. Like, 40,000 dead? Whoa. You know? Versus, you killed like a bunch of people basically for no reason. Whoa. Versus, you dragged your soulmate behind your horse.
Yeah. And threw her off a cliff.
And you all
fell. Like,
go to prison forever.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean. That's a hard thing to talk about, because we all love Xena.
Well, this is going to become an important part of redemption, because when do you even the scales? Like, she knows she did so many bad things. Like, how many good things cancel out the bad things, or is that even possible?
Even something that is what you should be doing? Yeah. Okay, next question. William on Facebook asks, what are your fave episodes? Meaning, if you are needing to get your Xena on, but not doing podcast research.
William, we are never not doing podcast research. Do you know us?
Bittersweet is my fave, but watched Been There, Done That, and Warrior Princess Tramp, and they are good go-tos.
Warrior Princess Tramp. I do like that answer a lot, William. I would pop that on.
Yeah, Been There, Done That's a fun one too.
Yeah.
Bittersweet, obviously. Good times.
Good times.
Good times for all. I just watch scenes from The Abyss over and over again. I watch scenes from One Against an Army over and over again. I watch scenes from Is There a Doctor in the House over and over again. I watch some stuff that I'm not going to talk about.
Do you ever watch like a complete episode, Katie?
Nope.
No, yeah. You just watch your fave stuff. Yeah.
Nope. I think the last time I had the opportunity to just pick an episode of Xena to watch, it was Bittersweet. So
wow, all right.
That clearly is a go-to.
That's very entertaining, yes.
Yeah, I would pick something from season 6 too.
What?
Helicon.
Yeah,
good job. But really, it would be A Day in the Life.
Oh, just sit down and have some relaxing fun.
That is really surprising as an answer from you. Not a Callisto app.
Well, I'm just like you're trying to pick something that's just not always on your mind, right?
You want like a break.
No breaks. All I do is just watch a montage of drama from start to finish.
Yeah, you're right though. It should be a Callisto app, but it's not.
But the honest answer is like I watch Xena for work. Xena is work.
Yeah, Xena is work.
So if like hypothetically, you just wanted to sit down and watch something.
Oh my god! I mean, I love Paradise Found so much.
You too.
I would hope it would be that.
That's very relaxing, sort of.
It's so. I think it's tempting to pick episodes that are longer ago.
Yeah, that's why I choose season 6, because that's like longer ago than when we watched it.
Yeah, like it is funny because like the
more recently we podcasted something, the more it still feels like work. The more I think about, the notes I took for it and, like, all the preparation that went into the podcast. So, like, it's easier, to go back to something like Bittersweet.
Season 1.
Or Season 1, where
I feel
you're
so
like...
weird right now. I never sit down to watch anything that's, like, nice.
Yeah, that's your burden, Katie.
Sorry.
All right, and our last one's a bunch of questions from
Yay!
Nora.
Hi, Nora. Friend of the podcast, Nora.
All right, so Nora goes, which hairstyle on the show is most glorious? Please discuss in excruciating detail.
I can do this.
Go,
for it,
Katie,
Katie.
go.
Oh my god. Now I have to pick. Okay.
So she can't do this.
Oh, I can't do this, actually. Is it bad to say this because we just watched it and just talked about it? And is that why I'm answering this way?
Okay.
Because the Xena hair in Ides of March
Oh, okay,
is,
yeah.
like, unbelievably glorious.
It's really beautiful.
And we kind of did talk about it in excruciating detail already, where, like, just the bangs are so full, the side braids are so amazing, it's just whipping around everywhere and being absolutely wonderful. It's just so fresh in my mind that maybe that's why I'm, like, having...
You know what's fresh in my mind? It's Gabrielle a few episodes ago when her hair was hairsprayed to its last inch of its little tiny life.
Oh.
And she looks insane.
No, don't talk about that one. What about, does it count, like, is a hairstyle, like in the abyss when it's all wet? Does that count?
That counts
when
as a
it's
hairstyle.
Just like,
That was style to look that way.
aesthetic. Like, holy shit.
I love
That's a good
Borias'
one.
man bun.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Guys.
Can you talk
And his
about it
facial
in
hair.
excruciating detail? Please.
Yeah, like when he's sitting on the horse and having sex with Xena on it.
Oh my
It
god.
looks great.
Super. You just want to run your fingers through it.
No, it's going to like stick in there because it's so weird and like dirty.
Oh no.
Oh, no. Gabrielle's hair in the beginning of the India arc, like, before it gets cut, is, like, peak, because you're like,
Yeah.
no, don't go away. But it's also, like, the best in Family Affair, because it's all, like, mussed. It gets, like, mussed a lot.
Yeah.
And it's so golden and wonderful.
My favorite Gabrielle hair is her party hair from Dirty Six,
Oh,
which
man.
we talked about. It's a little bit big.
Oh, yeah.
Like up. Yeah, it has a poof. It's got braids. It's the image on our banner on Twitter. So it is a good look. Xena's hair looks nice.
Oh, wait.
Looks
That was a different...
kind
I
of
was
regular.
thinking of a different one than our Twitter banner. Never mind. It's not as poofy.
It's got a little poof. It's definitely party hair. Yeah, it's the one saving grace of that episode is how good everybody's hair looks.
I have to say that my favorite hair, like maybe on the entire show, is I love Xena's flashback hair, but especially in the series finale.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that is some good hair.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's one of my favorite looks.
nice.
Okay, so then Nora also asks, who does Brutus want to bang more, Xena, Gabs, or Caesar? It's obviously Caesar.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% Caesar.
I mean, yeah.
I think he's interested in banging Gabs and is terrified of Xena in a way that
but also wants
could
to
lead
bang.
to banging.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Caesar, he's seriously committed to Caesar.
Is there an ancient culture you wish they explored on the show but didn't?
This is a great question.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it is really good.
I would have loved to see Sparta.
Oh, cool.
I think it's a big missing.
See, if like they did the
element.
reboot, you know that would happen because of
Yeah.
300.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's such a cool culture. I feel like it has a lot in common with how Xena operates, but at the same time, it's so macho.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a really interesting kind of comparison. Like, what is Xena in Sparta like? Like, what, are they enemies? Are they like uneasy allies? I think there's a lot you could do there.
That's awesome. Yeah. Katie, do you have anything?
My answer is more like not what they didn't explore at all, but that they could have done Egypt a lot better.
Yes.
And
That'd be
a
good.
lot more interesting.
That's so funny. Like some of my answers would be like, oh, I would love to see them do like ancient Mayans. And then I was like, ooh, that'd be so problematic.
I know, I was sort of like that too. I was like, I'd love to see them do more with Persia, as it is. They're just sort of like there in one against an army, but you don't get a chance to get any sense. But you're like, I know, it's such a Pandora's box. They go there, and then what?
So,
but like, so with by saying Egypt, it's like they have, well, how many? Two Cleopatras. And,
I mean, the next time you see Egypt, it'll be very problematic and hilarious, and one of the best hairstyles to talk about.
Oh boy,
it's true. That's
so but like, talk about an amazing culture that those are the 2 episodes. Oh no,
it's like a massively important culture.
This is also apropos of nothing, or rather, it's apropos of a question we've already answered. But another Xena pitch I have that I would have loved to see is an Alexander the Great storyline.
Whoa.
I mean, that's obviously hundreds and hundreds of years before Julius Caesar.
But doesn't stop.
That wouldn't
Xena,
stop
the
Xena.
show.
But yeah, I feel like that's the character where I'd love to see him meet her and like what that would be like. What is that?
Do you think that's like an old, like season 1 or 2 where he would be like the love interest a la Ulysses and whatever, boyfriend of the week, Alexander the Great?
I mean, I'd love for him to be gay. So you'd have, they'd be friends. They would
set him up as if he was boyfriend of the week, but then you find out he's not interested in that.
He has Hephaestion and realize that Alexander's gay.
The other answer is kind of like what Rob wanted, which is he wanted them to do Russia a bit.
Oh yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah, and I know probably they just want to put them in outfits that would be fun.
They would be some very amazing hats. I look forward to that.
I would have appreciated that. Yeah, I would have wanted that. Okay, so Nora's next question is, would Gabrielle have had true fulfillment following Eli if shit did not go down, capital letters and all of that? Do you think over time it would have destabilized her relationship with Xena or strengthened it?
That's a really good question.
That's a great question.
I think what happened in Ides of March was inevitable. It might not have happened in those exact circumstances, but I think Gabrielle, as this passive bystander, as many of our listeners have pointed out, it just wasn't a sustainable situation for her. That wasn't who she was, and there would have always been some kind of test that would have proven to her that she needed to act, that she needed to take up arms in defense probably of Xena. But, I think even if the circumstances were different, like, something like this would have happened.
I actually think that it would be fascinating to have following Eli. Like, I think that if it wasn't for the India episodes where, their lines have to be together and, like, literally forcing her to stay with her compact and her powder, like, with Xena, she would have gone off with Eli, and I would have liked to see that. I do think she would, if not for those India arc, like, instructions, she would have gone with him, tried pacifism. I think she would have fallen off her way there somehow and returned to Xena eventually. I do.
That's interesting.
I would have liked to see that.
You'd like to see Eli, not Najara, as the person
Well,
she goes
obviously,
off with.
I would love to see any female character over any male character on the show. So, yes, it would be great if, let's say, she would go with Najara, but that was not her pacifism arc. Her pacifism arc was based off of Eli. Mm-hmm. So that's where the canon leads you.
Okay, last question. If Aristotle and Plautus had a time-traveling pop culture podcast, how would they review Xena? Please answer in Greek and Latin, respectively. We can't answer this question because nobody knows Greek or Latin.
Sorry, Nora. I think they would have liked it.
4 out of 5 chakrams.
I think definitely Xena fits with Aristotle's Poetics, which is about as far as I could go in answering this. Has the good drama, the good tragedy. He'd give it a thumbs up.
And that with this other dude is comedy based, right? So it'd be
so
like
he'd
guy,
review all the
guy.
comedy episodes.
Yeah.
I get it, Nora. I get what you're trying to do here.
And we don't appreciate it.
Yeah. I'd rather answer this question as Satrina. Thank you.
What would Satrina say?
Satrina would say, I've been sitting here reviewing all these episodes of Xena, and I just have to ask, what's so great about Xena? Where is my show? Satrina, warrior queen. That's it.
They probably would have had, like,
Katie's still
bad,
answering.
like, opinions about, like, the depictions of Greece and Rome, and it would just be, like, an annoying conversation about,
Yeah.
I think they'd be nitpickers.
Yeah. Much like Satrina.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that wraps up the mailbag, guys.
Wow.
We did it. Season 4 is
Mailbag
officially done.
Thank you so much, you guys, not only for your amazing questions and comments, but also just for all of the amazing engagement level
Yeah.
you've put into the podcast this season. Like, we've had such incredible interactions on Facebook, on Twitter, on Tumblr, comments on YouTube, just so
Emails.
much.
We've gotten some great emails. too.
Really, like, amazing emails that have basically reduced us all to tears.
Yeah.
Like, it means so much to us that you guys are listening to us and feel strongly enough about it that you're reaching out. And yeah, huge, hearty thank you.
Thank
We
you.
hope to continue to see you on the interwebs for season 5.
Yeah, please don't stop. Yeah. And then the last thing is just a reminder about our schedule, which is we're not at season 5 yet. We got some Patreon episodes coming up.
We got some business to attend.
Yeah,
to.
some business. Yeah.
So that's not just going to be for patrons. Everybody is going to get something. So,
Absolutely.
like, stay tuned for next week. We're not going to tell you what it is you're getting, but you're
Some.
you're getting it. And then, after that, we will move on to season 5.
Oh,
Everybody's
boy.
favorite season. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna have a good time.
We're going to have a grand old time.
Okay, so you know the drill. Follow us on all the stuff and things.
Why don't you do it?
Oh my God. So
God.
go to the website, XenaWarriorPodcast.com.
Is this a Katie impression?
No, but it's really funny. I tune out when she starts saying so. What if I say it
know.
wrong? XenaWarriorPodcast.com, where you can listen to the stuff. Where you find links to everything.
Absolutely.
This is my impression of Katie now, yeah. So you can go to Apple Podcasts and you can leave rates and reviews there.
Leave them rates.
Because it helps people find the podcast. That is not a lie. That is the truth. So hit those stars. What else? We got the Patreon. Patreon.com/XenaWarriorPod or
Nope.
podcast.
Yes.
Patreon.com/XenaWarriorPodcast. We are on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. We are at Xena Warrior Pod on Twitter, where there's amazing gifts by Livy.
Woo!
Woot.
And really fun just interactions. As we mentioned, really great comments on Facebook. Lots of really great discourse there.
Go join
always
the convo.
Yeah,
and
join the
everybody talk to each other
convo.
and stuff.
Seriously, it's so great over there. Everyone's so smart. And then Tumblr, Katie, you check that. I don't know what's going on over there, but something is happening. Did I forget anything else? What else is going on?
Instagram.
Oh yeah, Insta.
Too many things. Wow.
We're on it. There are
All of them.
Yeah, and there's pictures on there because that's what Instagram is.
Good job, Vera.
Anything else?
You've definitely auditioned and lost the audition.
No,
for
that sounded about right.
New person who does the thing.
That sounded
and
about
stuff.
right, I think.
I think you should have done the whole thing as Borias.
Oh no! What about email? Don't forget to send your emails. Yeah,
Cool.
that's it. So the power,
The passion.
the podcast.